My name is Sarah, and I'm a mother who never imagined that my daughter's autism diagnosis would lead to one of the most emotional and transformative moments of my life. Emma is 17 years old, and for the past 12 years, we've navigated a world that often doesn't understand her unique way of experiencing life. What happened at her high school graduation ceremony last month changed not only how our community sees autism, but also how Emma sees herself. Before I share this incredible story that brought tears to hundreds of eyes, if you believe that every person deserves to be celebrated for who they are, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about acceptance and understanding. It was a Tuesday morning in early May when I received the phone call that would set everything in motion. The voice on the other end belonged to Mrs. Patterson, Emma's guidance counselor, and her tone immediately put me on edge. "Mrs. Henderson, we need to discuss Emma's participation in the graduation ceremony," she said, her words careful and measured. My heart sank because I knew what was coming. For the past 4 years, Emma had worked incredibly hard to maintain her grades while managing the sensory overload that comes with being in a typical high school environment. She had her routines, her safe spaces, and her small circle of understanding teachers who recognized her brilliant mind behind her sometimes unconventional behaviors. When Emma was 5 years old, we received her autism spectrum disorder diagnosis after months of appointments and evaluations. The pediatric neurologist explained that Emma experienced the world differently. Sounds were louder, lights were brighter, social cues were like a foreign language she was still learning to decode. But what many people didn't see was her incredible memory, her ability to notice patterns that others missed, and her deep capacity for empathy when she felt safe and understood. The diagnosis wasn't a limitation. It was an explanation for why Emma needed different supports to thrive. Throughout elementary school, we fought for accommodations that would help Emma succeed. We requested noise-canceling headphones for assemblies, a quiet space for lunch, and extended time for tests. Some teachers embraced these supports, understanding that Emma wasn't being difficult. She was managing a neurological difference that made certain environments overwhelming. But others saw her stemming behaviors, her need for routine, and her difficulty with spontaneous changes as signs of defiance or lack of intelligence. How wrong they were. Middle school brought new challenges as social expectations became more complex. Emma struggled to understand the unwritten rules of teenage friendships, often taking jokes literally or missing sarcasm entirely. I watched my brilliant daughter, who could recite entire documentaries about marine biology and solve complex math problems in her head, become increasingly isolated as her peers moved into social circles that felt impossible for her to navigate. The worst part was hearing other parents whisper about Emma being weird or antisocial, not understanding that she was simply wired differently. High school was supposed to be different. We had carefully chosen Lincoln High because of their advertised commitment to inclusion and their special education program. Emma's IEP included accommodations for her sensory needs, and she was enrolled in both mainstream classes and specialized support sessions. For the most part, her teachers were understanding, but there were still moments of frustration when substitute teachers didn't follow her accommodations, or when unexpected fire drills sent her into sensory overload. Emma had found her passion in marine biology, spending hours researching ocean ecosystems and coral reef preservation. Her knowledge was encyclopedic, and she could discuss the mating habits of sea turtles or the impact of climate change on ocean temperatures with the expertise of a graduate student. But in social situations, she still struggled. Group projects were particularly challenging because her direct communication style and focus on accuracy over social niceties sometimes rubbed her classmates the wrong way. As graduation approached, I had mixed feelings. I was incredibly proud of Emma's academic achievements. She was graduating with a 3.8 GPA and had been accepted to a university program in marine biology. But I was also anxious about the ceremony itself. Large crowds, loud music, unexpected changes in schedule. These were all triggers that could overwhelm Emma's sensory system. We had discussed the possibility of her not attending the ceremony, but Emma was determined to walk across that stage with her classmates. The conversation with Mrs. Patterson that Tuesday morning confirmed my worst fears. "Some of the staff are concerned about Emma's participation in the ceremony," she explained. "They're worried about disruptions if she becomes overwhelmed. There's also been some comments from other parents about whether it's appropriate for students who need special accommodations to participate in the same ceremony as typical students. I felt my blood pressure rising as she continued. They've suggested we hold a separate, smaller ceremony for students with special needs. I was devastated and furious. After 4 years of Emma working twice as hard as her peers to succeed in an environment that wasn't designed for her neurological differences, they wanted to segregate her from her graduation ceremony. Emma has earned her place on that stage, I told Mrs. Patterson firmly. She's met every graduation requirement and has the same right as any other student to celebrate her achievements with her class. There was a long pause before Mrs. Patterson agreed to bring my concerns to the administration. That evening, I sat down with Emma to explain the situation. Her response broke my heart. "Mom, do they think I'm not really a graduate because I'm autistic?" she asked, her voice small and confused. Emma had always been aware of her diagnosis, and we had worked hard to help her understand that autism was just a different way of experiencing the world, not a deficiency. But in that moment, I saw how the world's rejection had chipped away at her self-confidence. "You are absolutely a graduate, Emma," I told her, holding her hands. "You've worked harder than most students to get here, and you deserve to be celebrated." We spent the next hour looking through her high school portfolio projects on ocean conservation, research papers on marine ecosystems, volunteer work at the local aquarium. Emma's contributions to her school and community were significant and meaningful. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of meetings and phone calls. I contacted other parents of students with disabilities and discovered that Emma wasn't the only one facing questions about graduation participation. Together, we formed a small advocacy group, demanding that our children be included in the same ceremony as their peers. We cited federal disability rights laws and the school's own inclusion policies. The resistance we faced was disheartening comments about disruptions, safety concerns, and maintaining the dignity of the ceremony. During this time, Emma continued attending classes and preparing for graduation, seemingly unaware of the battle being fought on her behalf. Her marine biology teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, had always been one of Emma's strongest advocates. He understood her passion and brilliance, often staying after school to discuss her latest research interests. When he learned about the graduation controversy, he became a vocal supporter, writing letters to the administration about Emma's contributions to his class and her potential in the field of marine science. 2 weeks before graduation, we finally received word that Emma would be allowed to participate in the ceremony, but with conditions. She would need to sit in a designated area with a special education aide, and if she became overwhelmed, she would be quietly removed from the auditorium. While I wasn't thrilled with these restrictions, I agreed because Emma desperately wanted to walk across that stage with her classmates. The night before graduation, Emma was both excited and anxious. We had prepared extensively, visiting the auditorium during a quiet time so she could familiarize herself with the space, practicing the walking route, and identifying potential sensory challenges. Emma had chosen to wear her noise-canceling headphones during the ceremony, and I had packed a sensory toolkit with fidget toys and calming items in case she needed them. Graduation day arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too bright, with a gentle breeze that Emma found soothing. As we arrived at the school, I noticed the stares and whispers from other families. Some were curious, others seemed judgmental. Emma walked beside me with her characteristic measured pace, her noise-canceling headphones already in place, looking both determined and nervous. The ceremony began with the usual pomp and circumstance. Emma sat with her aide in the designated section, and I watched from the parent seating area, my heart pounding with each minute that passed. The principal, Dr. Williams, gave the opening address about achievement, perseverance, and the bright futures ahead for the graduating class. As he spoke about overcoming challenges and embracing differences, I hoped he truly meant those words. When it came time for students to receive their diplomas, Emma's row was called fairly early in the alphabet. I watched as she stood up, removed her headphones, and walked toward the stage with the measured, determined pace I knew so well. Some people in the audience shifted uncomfortably as Emma's stimming became more visible under the bright stage lights, a subtle hand flapping that helped her regulate her nervous system. As Emma approached Principal Williams to receive her diploma, I held my breath. She had practiced this moment, but the sensory input from the crowd, the lights, and the microphone feedback was clearly overwhelming her. Her stimming increased, and I could see her beginning to retreat into herself, a coping mechanism she used when the world became too much. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of rushing through the diploma presentation, Dr. Williams paused. He looked directly at Emma and said, "Emma Henderson." Then, instead of the standard handshake and photo, he continued speaking into the microphone. "Emma, before you receive your diploma, I want to share something with everyone here today." The auditorium fell silent, and I felt a mix of panic and hope. Was this going to be another moment of humiliation, or was something different about to happen? Dr. Williams continued, "For years ago, Emma joined our school community, and she has taught us more about persistence, curiosity, and authentic learning than perhaps any other student. Emma, your research project on coral reef restoration was forwarded to the Marine Conservation Institute, where it caught the attention of Dr. Jennifer Martinez, one of the leading researchers in ocean conservation." My heart stopped. Emma's project had been forwarded? We had never been told about this. Dr. Martinez was so impressed with Emma's research and innovative solutions that she has offered Emma a summer research internship at the Marine Conservation Institute, with the possibility of continued collaboration throughout her undergraduate studies. The auditorium erupted in surprised murmurs, and I saw Emma's face transform from anxiety to amazement. But Dr. Williams wasn't finished. "Emma, your detailed observations and pattern recognition skills led to the discovery of a previously unnoticed correlation between water temperature fluctuations and coral bleaching rates in our local reef systems. Your work has contributed to real environmental protection efforts in our community." Tears began streaming down my face as I realized that Emma's supposed obsession with marine life, her attention to minute details that others dismissed as irrelevant fixations, her persistence in collecting data that seemed excessive to neurotypical observers, all of these autism-related traits had led to genuine scientific contribution. "But that's not all," Dr. Williams continued, and the auditorium was now completely silent. "Emma, your quiet advocacy for environmental awareness has inspired changes in our school's sustainability practices. Your suggestions for reducing plastic waste and improving recycling programs have been implemented district-wide, affecting over 15,000 students across 12 schools." I watched as Emma stood straighter, her stimming calming as she focused on Dr. Williams' words. For the first time in years, I saw her truly understanding that her differences weren't deficits, they were superpowers. "Emma Henderson," Dr. Williams announced, "in addition to your high school diploma, you are receiving the first ever Lincoln High School Award for Environmental Innovation and Advocacy. Your autism has not held you back. It has given you unique perspectives and abilities that have made our world better." The applause that followed was thunderous. Students who had never spoken to Emma were on their feet cheering. Parents who had whispered about her strange behaviors were applauding enthusiastically. Teachers were wiping away tears. Emma stood on that stage, holding her diploma and her special award, finally seeing herself reflected in the way others were seeing her. As Emma walked back to her seat, she passed the section where some of the most critical parents had been sitting. Mrs. Johnson, who had once complained about Emma's disruptive stimming during school assemblies, was crying openly. "I had no idea," she whispered as Emma passed. "I'm so sorry, I didn't understand." After the ceremony, we were surrounded by people wanting to congratulate Emma. Her marine biology teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, explained that he had been quietly documenting Emma's exceptional work and had submitted her research project to various organizations without telling us, knowing that Emma's work deserved recognition beyond the classroom. Dr. Martinez from the Marine Conservation Institute had driven down from the university specifically to meet Emma. "Your research methodology shows a level of systematic thinking and attention to detail that graduate students struggle to achieve," she told Emma. "Your autism gives you observational skills that neurotypical researchers often lack. You notice patterns and connections that others miss." Emma listened intently, her confidence growing with each word of recognition. "I always thought my attention to details was annoying to people," she said quietly. "In science," Dr. Martinez replied, Attention to detail isn't annoying, it's essential. Some of our greatest scientific discoveries have come from people who thought differently, who noticed what others overlooked, who persisted when others gave up. Your neurological differences aren't obstacles to overcome, they're tools that make you uniquely capable of solving complex problems. As we drove home that evening, Emma was quiet for a long time, processing the day's events. Finally, she said, "Mom, for the first time I feel like being autistic is actually a good thing. Like maybe I'm not broken or weird. Maybe I'm just different in ways that can help people." My tears came again, but this time they were tears of pure joy. "Emma, you were never broken. You've always been exactly who you were meant to be. Today, everyone else finally got to see what I've always known, that your autism makes you extraordinary, not ordinary." The weeks following graduation brought even more surprises. Emma's story spread through social media, and we began receiving messages from other families affected by autism, from researchers interested in Emma's work, and from universities recruiting students with diverse neurological profiles. Emma started a blog about marine conservation from an autistic perspective, sharing how her sensory sensitivities actually helped her notice environmental changes that others missed. The Marine Conservation Institute internship turned into a transformative experience. Emma's supervisor later told me that Emma's systematic approach to data collection and her ability to maintain focus for extended periods made her one of the most productive research assistants they had ever worked with. "Emma processes information differently," she explained, "and that different processing often leads to insights that linear thinkers miss." Emma's story also sparked changes at Lincoln High School. Dr. Williams implemented new inclusion training for all staff, focusing on understanding neurodiversity as a form of human variation rather than a deficit to be fixed. The school developed a mentorship program pairing students with different learning styles, and Emma became one of the first peer mentors, helping younger autistic students navigate high school challenges. 6 months after graduation, Emma was featured in a national magazine article about young environmental activists. The article highlighted how her autism-related traits, intense focus, attention to patterns, and systematic thinking, made her particularly effective at environmental research. The article helped shift public perception of autism from a list of deficits to a recognition of different cognitive strengths. Emma's university experience has been remarkable. Her professors appreciate her thorough research methods and her unique perspectives on complex environmental issues. She's working on a research project examining the impact of ocean noise pollution on marine life communication patterns, a project that grew directly from her heightened sensitivity to auditory stimuli. Looking back on that graduation day, I realize it marked more than just the end of high school. It marked the beginning of Emma's recognition of her own worth and potential. For 17 years, we had fought against a world that saw autism as something to be hidden, managed, or overcome. In one 25-minute ceremony, that narrative completely changed. Emma still has challenges. Social situations can be overwhelming, unexpected changes still cause anxiety, and sensory overload remains a daily consideration. But now these challenges exist within a framework of understanding her strengths, not just managing her difficulties. She has learned to advocate for her needs while also recognizing her unique contributions. The graduation ceremony taught our entire community about the importance of looking beyond surface behaviors to recognize the gifts that neurodivergent individuals bring to our world. Emma's autism isn't something she has despite her success. It's integral to her success. Her ability to focus intensely on subjects that interest her, her systematic approach to problem solving, her honest communication style, and her genuine concern for environmental issues all stem from the same neurological differences that once made her seem difficult in traditional educational settings. Today, Emma is thriving in her marine biology program, contributing to research that could help save our oceans, and inspiring other autistic young people to embrace their differences as strengths. She recently gave a presentation at an autism conference, sharing her story and encouraging parents and educators to look for the gifts hidden within autism-related behaviors. Dr. Williams later told me that Emma's graduation moment was planned carefully. He had been working with Mr. Rodriguez for weeks to coordinate the recognition and had contacted Dr. Martinez specifically to be present for the ceremony. Emma deserved to have her achievements celebrated publicly, he explained. For too long, we've focused on what autistic students can't do instead of recognizing what they can do extraordinarily well. The Marine Conservation Institute internship led to Emma being co-author on a research paper about coral reef restoration strategies, an incredible achievement for someone who hasn't even finished her first year of college. Her research supervisors consistently note that her methodical approach and attention to environmental details make her an invaluable team member. Emma's story has become a powerful example of what happens when we stop trying to force neurodivergent individuals into neurotypical molds and instead create environments where different types of minds can flourish. Her graduation day revealed that autism isn't a tragedy to be overcome. It's a neurological difference that, when properly supported and understood, can lead to extraordinary contributions. As I write this, Emma is preparing for her second year of university, where she'll be conducting independent research on marine ecosystem recovery patterns. She's also working with the university's Disability Services Office to mentor incoming autistic students, helping them understand that their neurological differences can be sources of strength rather than barriers to success. The girl who was once seen as a prisoner of her own world has become a bridge between the autism community and the scientific world, showing everyone that different doesn't mean less than. It means uniquely capable of seeing solutions that others might miss. Emma's autism hasn't been cured or overcome. It's been celebrated, supported, and channeled into making the world a better place. That graduation ceremony changed more than just Emma's life. It changed how an entire community thinks about autism, disability, and human potential. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment of recognition to transform a lifetime of misunderstanding into a foundation for extraordinary achievement.